Chapter 62. Who dares to stir up trouble on my turf? Do they have a death wish? Mason Sims bellowed as he strutted with a cigar in his mouth. Everywhere he went, the crowd dispersed as they were all afraid of provoking him. Even Dahlia's expression turned grave upon laying eyes on him. Although Trevor Spanner was dead, Mason Sims managed to inherit all of his power and was glowing in his element. With Edwin Hummer behind his back too, not many had the privilege of offending him civilly. You escaped through the side door. I'll cover for you, Dahlia ordered as she stepped forward to shield Dustin. She was an influential figure herself, so even if Mason was batshit crazy, she knew he didn't have the balls to do anything to her. It was a different story for Dustin though, for he wasn't an influential figure or anything. So, if he were unfortunate enough to fall into Zim's clutches, he would end up dead or disabled, at the very least. You want him to escape? Where to? As long as Sir Zims is here, even if Jesus came down from heaven today, he won't be able to save you. Your death is imminent. Mr. Chauncey huffed before cockily strutting up to Mason. You've finally arrived, Sir Zims. Just take a look at my face. Look how it got beat up. Mr. Chauncey lamented. What happened here? Mason asked with an eyebrow raised. The story is, this woman approached me for a loan just now. But when I noticed that she had bad credit, I refused to lend her any money. Who knew she'd be so shameless as to start seducing me on top of toying with other men? And just because I didn't want to give in to her mind games, she beat me up. Can you believe this? Mr. Chauncey lied through his teeth, spewing out bullshit the whole time. Oh, she's a wild one, I see. Did you mention my name? Mason snapped. He didn't look like he came here to make friends. Of course I did. But they didn't bat an eye at the mention of your name and even boldly proclaimed that they'd just fight you if you showed up. Mr. Chauncey instigated. Good, no, excellent. If I don't flex my muscles once in a while, people will start thinking I've lost my touch. Mason guffawed wickedly. He had just taken control of the Dre group and was worried he'd have no opportunity to push his weight around. It was about time a few people who weren't afraid of death came up to him today. What a load of crap. Dahlia exploded after holding herself back for so long. She took a few steps forward and started explaining. Sir Zims, I was the one who approached him to take out a loan, but not only did he deny me a loan, he even tried to make things difficult for me. All those accusations about seducing him and toying with other men were totally made up and untrue, to say the least. He was lying the whole time, but before she could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by a wave from Mason's hand. What makes you think that I care about the truth? I don't give a shit about who was right or wrong. The fact of the matter was that you picked a fight with someone on my turf, which meant that you were indirectly disrespecting me as well. So, for everyone who disrespects me, whether it be Tom, Dick, or Harry, I'll have them kneel in front of me to beg for forgiveness. Dahlia couldn't help but frown upon hearing that. She didn't expect him to be so unreasonable. Hey, didn't you hear what he just said? Hurry up and kneel on the ground and beg for your life to be spared. Mr. Chauncey snickered. He was well aware of Mason's character, which was why he dared to act so cocky and reckless now. Tell me, who was the man who hit you just now? Let's see if he can escape with his hands intact today. Mason twirled a knife in his hand. He vowed to make an example of someone today, no matter what. Sir Zims, he was the little shit who beat me up. Mr. Chauncey stretched out a finger and pointed. As Mason chewed on a cigar hanging from his mouth, he raised his chin and turned his head around to see who it was. However, the moment his gaze met Dustin's, it was as if his whole body was struck by lightning and he became frozen on the spot. The steel knife in his hand also fell to the ground and clattered on the floor. Oh, my God, why him of all people? Mason thought nervously. His body stiffened upon gazing at Dustin's familiar face. Cold sweat immediately broke out on his face. He was so scared his legs started to buckle. Even after all this time, that image of Dustin wiping out an entire building by himself was still as fresh in his mind as ever. It still gave him nightmares to this day. He became even more frightened after hearing about Travis Spanner's disappearance and the destruction of Spanner Villa 2 days ago. That was because he knew very well that it was all Dustin's doing. Somehow, Dustin had managed to make Travis Spanner, a general of the Western War Zone, disappear without a trace in just one night. That just solidified how terrifying the man standing in front of him was. Fucking pig. Why'd he have to get me in this mess? He grumbled to himself. Weren't you barking like a rabid dog just now, you little shit? Why aren't you saying anything now that Sir Zims is here? Mr. Chansey, who still didn't get the memo, continued taunting Dustin as if he had 9 lives. Let's see if you dare slap me again. I'll see to it that you die a horrible death today. The moment he finished speaking, Mason saw a chance to redeem himself and rushed forward to slap the living daylights out of Chansey. The sound of a crunch came, followed by a staggering Mr. Chansey, who looked like he was about to collapse any second. A red handmark could clearly be seen on his face. Sir Zims. Aren't you beating up the wrong person right now? Mr. Chansey mumbled as he used his hands to cover his somewhat shocked expression. Me? Beating up the wrong guy? But you're the guy I'm supposed to beat up. Mason roared furiously, and without skipping a beat, he lifted a hand to slap Chansey a few more times before throwing him onto the ground. As if that did not quell his rage, he started to punch and kick Chansey again, cussing him out as he went. You fat pig. I feel like throwing up whenever I see you. Why would such a stunning woman like Ms. Nicholson seduce you? Do you even know what you look like? How fucking dare you spread my name so casually like that? How dare you make a fool out of me? I'll see to it that you stay dead. The more he cursed, the fiercer he became and the more blows he delivered. At this point, Mr. Chansey had been beaten up to the extent of crying like a little bitch, screaming for his parents, while he cradled his head and begged for mercy at the same time. What the hell is going on here? Someone whispered from the crowd. The sudden turn of events left the crowd stunned. No one had expected the tables to turn so drastically. Wasn't Mason, who arrived like a hurricane minutes before, supposed to be on Mr. Chansey's side? So why was he beating up his own teammate instead? Who was on whose side now actually? Dahlia trailed off as her eyes widened. She was speechless at Mason's sudden shift in attitude. Just a second ago, he paraded around like a cocky motherfucker, acting so domineering and unreasonable, but now he was pretending as if he had a halo on his head, and was putting on a righteous front. More importantly, she could obviously make out that there was a trace of fear on his face. However, that was the part that got her stumped. Could one still be fearful of anything or anyone after assassinating someone so powerful as Sir Spanner? Looking around the room, her gaze eventually landed on Dustin. Come to think of it, Mason's sudden shift in attitude seemed to have something to do with his encounter with Dustin. Was it possible that Mason was terrified of Dustin?